very thrilling, exciting, because since 2014 came into our life, I was looking with candles at conferences and anything, really anything that will commemorate the Great War. And actually I wanted to talk about the opposition to war in general, but as very interesting lectures went by, I decided to speak to the hearts of the people that came here, because Guy said that in a way we're still living First World War, and it's quite true. And the other speakers talk about what could have been done to prevent the war, and understanding World War I didn't prevent, not the Holocaust, not Rwanda, not Srebrenica, and so on and so forth. Could be that the oppositioners, the people who opposed the war, in the different sections of them, is simply not heard. Nobody writes, let's say not nobody, but very little is written about them. I looked for years in different universities to find courses about First World War, because every time when the digital clock strikes 7:14, I'm in a way in the war, because when 7 p.m. comes and I see 19:14 on my clock, so I remember the assassination, and then at 7:15 I remember 1915, and starting, and then comes the 40s, and thank God there is only 60 minutes, because you don't need to remind other episodes. But actually, I'm here because I'm a radio documentarist, and since 1914 started, we in the IDF radio. Everybody know what is the IDF, right? It's the Army radio. It's our national radio in a way, but it's an Army radio, and it's quite, let's say, illegal in a way, and revolutionary what we're trying to do. We're a bunch of Army journalists that dedicating once a week our program, radio program, to the Great War in different angles, and trying to research different episodes of the First World War, emphasizing the opposition to war. Not many remember different oppositioners, not even in the land of Israel. For example, who remembers Yaakov Zubavel? You remember Jacob Zubavel? Yaakov Zubavel? Apoel Hatzair, the young worker in Israel who opposed the war. Since the beginning, he was against joining the army. He was again everywhere. He talked about solidarity between workers. We're talking about John Joes, who was assassinated on 31st of July, day after, symbolically, the war started. 37 days between the assassination in Sarajevo and the 1st of August. So during those 37 days, Joes worked night and day to prevent the war, to say this simple truth to the simple workers, to the union workers in Scotland, in Ireland, in everywhere. You got no quarrel with a German worker, and you're serving wrong interests, bad interests of aristocrats, of royal cousins. Nobody listened. Nobody listened to Karl Marx Lichnowsky, which is his end of life he just disappeared from the map. We don't know what happened to this great man, righteous man that tried till the 11th hour. He tried to stop the war. He tried to make some sense in this irrational bloodbath that is coming upon the land, this great judgment day. And there is only one great war, and it's the First World War. There aren't any other great war. It was great. I don't know, it was great because it was a great epoch. It was the end of the bad epoch and the beginning of a new era, which nobody actually knew what was going to come. So that was the reason why the war was so strange, and nobody expected the injuries that shrapnel caused, and nobody expected the decaying of the human spirit after the Great World War and during the Great World War. So we're talking about Max Lichnowsky, and actually I don't know if it's good that I'm saying that, because maybe my superiors, my commanders wouldn't like to know that 90% of our radio documentary programs about the First World War is about oppositioners. So
it's lucky they don't listen to them.
Yeah, it's lucky that they don't listen. They don't listen to documentary programs at all. And then 10 p.m. This is the show is at 10 p.m. It's always live because we don't want to be cut and we don't want to be censored and things like that. We're not saying, hey, we're conscious objectors, right? But we're saying, hey, look, there are some people. There were some very smart people. Also, I want to say to Guy that he didn't mention Bela Kun.
Of course.
Another great hero, murderous hero, but should be mentioned in those weird days of 1990. So, as I said, there are different oppositioners. There are these leaders, especially socialist leaders, Tolstoyan leaders, pacifist leaders, sorry for the and so on, that were opposed to war because they knew that it's going to bring a very long engagement on us, and it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be hell on earth, like Avigdor Meiri, our Hebrew writer, wrote this. I don't know, some say it's even better than Remarque's book. What? Again? Hungarian, absolutely. Hungarian origin, also prisoner of war, the South Front, and he called it Hell on Earth, Begenom Shel Mata, published and written before Remarque All Quiet on the Western Front, should be remembered. And actually in Israel, in the land of Israel, in Palestine, in Zion, everybody, there is, we know from the journals that everybody had a copy of All Quiet on the Western Front, but it was published too late after the war. So we got different oppositioners, some of the oppositioners opposing to war as a concept, as a war, as serving, as I said, aristocrat and familiar interest among those strange, weird, sometimes pervert cousins of the grandsons of Queen Victoria. And but we have the tragic ones who became oppositioners during the fight in the trenches. And those people, sorry I didn't brought my puppy with me, because I have one. And talking about people that got to this being opposition to war as officers, as fighting, like Siegfried Sassoon, this very famous story about him throwing his medal to the sea, and Wilfred Owen. And I've brought the text. I want to read just. Of course, I'll read now. Wilfred Owen died precisely a week before the armistice. Actually, at the same hour, so it was probably like 11 before noon. It was the 4th of November, 1918, a week before he went through all the war, almost since 1916, the hellish year of the war, and he wrote the parable of old men and the young. So it's actually about Akedat Yitzchak, then Isaac almost sacrificing his son. We know that in the biblical story, Isaac is saved by the angel. Now I want to read you this poem of his, probably known by some of you, if not by all of you, right? So Wilfred Owen, dear old Wilfred. So Abram, not Abraham, yeah? So Abram rose and clave the wood and went, and took the fire with him and the knife. And as they sojourned, both of them together, Isaac the firstborn spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron, but where the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps, and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son. When lo, an angel called him out of heaven, saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son, and half the seed of Europe one by one. I think that a better understanding of opposition, all kinds of opposition, because sometimes you get mad about certain opposers to war, because when Wilfred Owen wrote those lines, he was with his fellow comrades, with his fellow soldiers in the trenches, eaten by rats, choking to death by gas that Fritz Haber gave us. God bless him. Of course not. And and you got, on the other hand, the conscience objectors that were growing carrots and cucumbers as a punishment in Great Britain. So this war is so complex, is so inner war. It's not like the Second War, World War, which was very rational. We knew who's the devil, who's the victim, why we're fighting, who hates who. But in the First World War, sometimes you believe that Lichnowsky is the most purified personality on earth. But then again, you read someone that nobody knew in the world, like Aaron David Goldon, and he said, wow, he was a genius. How did he know? How did he know? Sorry. How did he know that that's what's going to happen? Oh, Yaakov Zobabel. People that nobody heard about them, generally. So this is our main purpose. This is my main task as a documentary journalist. Till 1918, if I won't be fired. If you got any connections with the IDF, don't let them fire me. Because till 1918, we're planning a weekly program about the First World War, bringing up and making people know, and letting know where they can read about the opposers, about the objectors, different kind of objectors. You can sympathize with whatever you want, but as long as you oppose this war. Edward Gray was a kind of an opposer, but he served in this mechanism of escalation that brought upon us the war. There were people like Gustav Landauer, like Erlich Mösam, two anarchists, Jewish anarchists in that case, but it's not only Jewish. We knew many bad Jews. There are many bad Jews in history, like Rakosi, for example. So Gustav Landauer and Erlich Mösam were agitators that went to the factories, went to the union workers, like Keele Hardy in Britain, and talked to the workers and said to them something that will be revealed during the war, that if you don't want to fight, if you understand that you're serving a bad cause, a lost cause, and you are feeding the beast of aristocracy, or bourgeoisie in that case, old bourgeoisie, you can quit fight. That was the thing that generals most feared from. They feared from spontaneous ceasefires. They feared from objectors in the trenches. They fear from just shaking hands, like we know about this famous Noel incident at the end of 1914, the beginning of 1915, when the German trench starts saying Heilige Nacht, and the British singing their version in English, and suddenly there is quiet, and they're coming up the trenches, and they're seeing people, they're seeing workers, they're seeing the same mustache, they're seeing the same shaving instruments, and they're seeing people, and they shake hands, and they shake hands. There is no war for these hours. No war, no war. In the beginning of 1915, and the Kaiser promised us that it will be end till Christmas. Now they're shaking hands, they're dancing, they're playing football, but tomorrow morning they will come back and slay each other till death. So remember the opposer, this is what I came from, just to let you know that they were, and they're very important, and you can read and hear about them now only. That's I'm very sorry for that, and it's not my pride, but we're the only one in Israel, which was a front in 1917. It's not that we're untouchables of this war. We had Austro-Hungarians die here, we have Germans die here, we have Australians, New Zealanders, and Hebrew people from this place. So till now we're the only ones. So I hope that we'll be able to let more and more people know about the opposition to war, whether it's socialist, whether it's conscious, whether it's pacifistic, and whether it's Israeli and non-influential, or whether it's soldiers that just realize that why do you need that fight for, why do you need that war, why do you need that bloodshed, or whether it's Keir Hardie or Jean Joësse that knew that no worker should be with that war. Those Joësse, you don't know how he would have acted during the war. We know that he was very patriotic. It's not contradiction. You can be opposed, you can establish an opposition to war, but be for your country. And he was totally French. We might believe, we might assume that if he to live in 1915-16, he was for the war, he was encouraging people to go to fight, but he knew it was a sin, as we all should know and remember. Thank you. Short things. God bless you all. And
okay, thank you to all of our three speakers. We're more or less coming to the end of time, and I'm not sure. Do we have time for a short discussion? Or okay, 10, 50. We'll have to take 3 questions from the audience. Questions, not speeches, not comments, but those sentences which end with a question mark at the end of them. And we'll ask, and obviously if the 3 questions can relate to the wider discussion, that will be great. If they relate to a specific speaker. So here's the first one. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ben Mala from Bar-Ilan University. Just 2 short.
We'll take the 3 together.
Okay.
As well, yeah.
First of all, Professor Rader, in terms of the lesson of the First World War, need for greater accommodation, Munich, stand firm against aggression, need for combination. Maybe at the Cuban Missile Crisis, was that combination of strategy worked out? And then just one larger thought. Is it imaginable to have the slaughter of combatants in this day and age? Are people prepared to give their lives on this scale? It seems to me we're much more sensitive to casualties, particularly military casualties. But most of the casualties in war today are actually civilian rather than military.
Okay, we'll just keep those. Yes, please.
Name's Madiel Ben Yehuda with the African Hebrew Israelites in Dimona. No one mentioned anything about Africa's involvement in the lead up to World War I. I can see how, we talk about the assassination, we talk about the other types of issues, but what about these probably being repercussions from the claims, the lost claims of African people after all the Berlin Conference had gone into Africa, divided it up? You're talking about resources, you're talking about friction, you're talking about empires feeling left out and feeling shortchanged by that. No mention of that whatsoever. And could this possibly be a lesson for us to learn and for Europe to learn to set all this right now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Andreas, you said that there was no compensation to the Soviet Union from the Western side for this NATO expansion. What about the seat in the Security Council, about the tremendous help which received Russia during these years when it was decaying? What about the atomic weapon which was collected under the single roof? And last but not least, what about the property which belonged to the Soviet Union and in the western part of the world, and which went to the to Russia, which belonged to the Soviet Union, not to Russia?
Thank you. Is there one more anywhere in the audience?